So let's start nevertheless. I'm tired of waiting. So my name is Benjamin Patock. I'm on the board of the German cannabis business. Slow? Slow, okay. My name is Benjamin Patock from Germany. And I'm on the board of the German Cannabis Industry Association. I work from my company that I work for initially is Bovada. If we have a booth there, feel free to come by if you don't know what we're doing. And I will just do a quick introduction. So I'll let everybody introduce themselves. But I don't want just everybody just telling their CV, right? I want this to be a little bit more personal. So the way I envision this to be is, I want you to tell everybody what was your first touch point with cannabis, right? Whatever it was.
Which stand?
I will start, okay? And then you can decide how detailed you want it to be, okay? And then, of course, we will look into the country that you represent. So we'll look into Poland, we'll look into France and Spain and the Ukraine, right? Very interesting. How does medicinal cannabis look? And how will the future for those markets be? So, my name is Benjamin. I'm from Germany. And I got in touch with weed in school. I smoked weed in school, and it was highly illegal back then, right? So if you include like what the regulatory environment was, it probably helped. As you might know, it was illegal until recently here in Germany, and this is why this is such a boom also for this year. And I became part of the cannabis industry. This is the other one that I want you to include, basically by accident. Because I did a couple of internet startups, and one was a retailer for cigars. And in cigars, there's one product which is called Bovada. It's for humidity regulation, and I love it. And when I quit that position, I started working for them, and they told me that they also have a strong branch. Am I too fast for you? Oh. Does that help? Okay. You give me a sign whenever I do the shish, okay? Okay, good. So, and because they're originally in the cigar space, but the same product they have in the cannabis space. And all of a sudden, I was in the cannabis industry, and I was even more happy than before. You know, because I could now do what I love, not only for cigars, which I also love, but also for cannabis. All right? So.
Okay, I can start, actually.
Please.
As you already know, I'm from Poland, and cannabis started to be legalized in Poland in 2017. And actually, nobody knows nothing about the cannabis, even medical doctor or pharmacist, because I'm a pharmacist, so I know what we learn at school. And 2019 is the year that first cannabis dry flower came to the pharmacy. And as I work for one of the biggest pharmacy chain in Poland and actually in Europe, we decided that it's a good point to meet this topic. And we start to import cannabis to sell to our patients. Project develops, and we decide to open the first cannabis laboratory actually in pharmacy to provide another formulas for patients, like suppositories, like capsules, like extracts. And then the project lead start to be needed actually, and there I came.
Okay.
And from this side, cannabis started to interest me much more and more and more, and I decided to delve into this topic scientifically as well. So I started my doctoral thesis, and as a lack of education was like the big issue in Poland, we decided also like fourth time in a row at this year organized medical cannabis conference called Innovative Cannabis Therapies that I'm a host. So, of course, it's in Polish, but you are all invited.
So you're a pharmacist.
Yeah.
And then cannabis just hit you because cannabis was in the pharmacies all of a sudden.
Yeah, actually in Poland it's registered as like compounding drug. And I was a compounding expert, so it was like natural to go into cannabis as well. Mm-hmm. And it starts with this.
Okay, great. Ghita.
So the first encountering for cannabis was obviously, as anyone, teenagehood. I grew up in Morocco, which is quite known for many things, cannabis included. And I would say my second encountering was when I was at the pharmacy university, and I'm a pharmacist, and we have been studying all the drugs, including cannabis. And then my professional encountering was in 2019 when I was doing consultancy for pharma companies. And in 2019 was the moment where in France we started to have this discussion about probably having medical cannabis regulated. So it was a lot of talk. We didn't know anything. We had a lot of cannabis companies trying to enter France. And I was traveling around to Canada, to the US, to Germany to understand what was this future market. And then since 23 years ago, I joined Aurora, supporting them through the French experiment program. We will be discussing about that. And helping Aurora and also the general market of France to have a regulatory framework.
Great. We will jump over Pepe. Ladies first, obviously. Hanna, please.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, thank you all of these people who are sitting and listening. Thank you so much. We appreciate it so much. So I'm Ukrainian, and in Ukraine, people do not know anything about cannabis. We don't have market, we don't have anything. Just for you to understand, right now, we have to educate people that like THC and CBD is different. So people try still to buy CBD and think that they're gonna be high. So that's the level of development in Ukraine. And like I was raised in Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine. And like the only thing my mom told me is like, do whatever you want to do, but do not do drugs, do not do cannabis. And that was the whole paradigm. But then I had a unique opportunity of starting off one of the first cannabis cultivation facilities in Portugal back in 2018. And in 2017, I guess, I went to the very first cannabis conference. It was IAMC. This is the conference specifically for scientists. And like, I'm not a scientist, I'm a lawyer by my background, right? And then I came there, I had good English, but then people were speaking and I was like consuming probably 10% out of all of the information because they were speaking about endocannabinoid system, about like different influence on cannabis on the body, on the brain. Once again, I'm not a scientist. It was very difficult for me to understand the information that was actually there. But that was the first time I got in contact with cannabis, and it was a very good location because I actually met the brightest people, like the minds in the industry who actually develop cannabinoid research, who is actually making sure that more and more countries are legalizing medical cannabis. So I had a big background in the industry because I was for a long time together with the cannabis cultivation company from Portugal. So I was selling cannabis flower from Portugal to Germany. I was very annoying, pushy sales lady.
Yes.
But now I'm studying the Ukrainian market. Ukraine has recently legalized medical cannabis, which I'm very excited about. And we are doing our best to develop the market. And that's why I'm here, I guess.
I guess so too. Thank you, Hanna. Last
Thanks,
but not least.
Benjamin. I'm Pepe, I'm from Spain. I actually had my first experience with cannabis also in school. I went to a very Catholic school. My first experience with cannabis was actually in Vatican City. The Pope was giving a speech, and we were with my friends playing cards and smoking joints.
Okay, that sounded more exciting when you introduced it, to be fair. You know, it's like, oh, no.
Yeah, no, well, it didn't get there. Many years later, well, now I'm a lobbyist, and I lobby mostly for pharma companies and health technologies and so on. And I have this friend, he's a lawyer, he's got a small estate 1 hour from Madrid, and he grows olive trees and has olive oil, of course, Spain. One day he calls for a meeting and say, hey guys, I need your help. I want to grow marijuana. And we looked at each other and say, Blas has gone nuts. But then he was serious about it, and we looked into it. We saw that there was a case. We had to put a project together, find a way. We started the market, we started a regulation, and we helped him achieve it. No? And then after that, we said, look, now we have the knowledge. What else can we do? Because, I mean, you can grow cannabis in Spain, but you can't actually access to it. No? So we reached out to the industry. Through LinkedIn, I started to find people from Tilray, Aurora, whatever, all these companies. And one of them, had the urge to do something in Spain. So we started working in Spain, and we started lobbying to achieve medical cannabis access in our country. Obviously, we haven't achieved it yet, but yeah, this is part of the discussion that I would like to have. We did great steps in the last few years, and hopefully we'll get there soon enough.
Yeah, let's just stay there, right, with you, Pepe, because in Germany there were a lot of changes recently. Obviously, for recreational, big, you can now grow your own cannabis. Soon you have cannabis clubs. You have cannabis clubs in Spain too for the recreational side, which is a gray area, I would say, a very grayish, blackish. Yep. So, and in Germany we declassified or reclassified cannabis as well, so which has a big impact for medicinal patients, positive and negative as well, because now a lot of people, for them it's easier to get a prescription, right? So a lot of people get the recreational users, right? They are going now and getting their prescription because it's a legal and easy way, right? So how would you compare it to Spain, like the situation? So what does it look like?
Well, I think it's very different because in Germany you have a structure, you have a regulation, and you know how it is. In Spain, it's a very gray area, and it definitely depends on the politicians to apply whatever they want. And that's what's happening in Barcelona. They have a mayor that she wanted it to be that way. With a different mayor, it could be a different thing. And now there's been a recent change, and it might change in the near future. What we need is an actual regulation that puts things in place, and we all know what we have to do.
Okay. How's it looking in France?
Well, in France, we don't have a regulation yet, but it's been 3 years that the health authorities, they seized this very hot topic because we had a lot of pressure from patient associations, from the society. At the end of the day, we saw Germany, that is close to us, having a framework. We saw not only a framework, a market. And the health authorities, they seized this topic and they conducted what we called an experiment. So there is a 3,000 patients that has been included the past 3 years, that medical cannabis is prescribed by doctors that are trained. Products are delivered by pharmacies that are part of the experiment, and everything is monitored. And the objective of these 3 years of experiment is to literally have a framework for medical cannabis as any other pharmaceutical products. Of course, it has its own particularities, so it's going to have some specificities, but ultimately it's going to be a pharma product prescribed by doctors in some indications, delivered by pharmacies, reimbursed by the system. So now we are at the end of it. We are very happy of the work that has been done by the health authorities, by the cannabis companies, that all of them were foreign companies because we couldn't provide French cannabis, it's forbidden. And of course, pharmaceutical companies that were involved in this experiment. And so now it's really pending political decisions. We're all having elections right now, so we hope for the best. But it's expected that next year in France, we're going to have a very clear framework which will probably lead to a very interesting market.
Okay. Anita.
Actually, as I mentioned before, cannabis was legalized in 2017, but the first dry flower
usage, right?
Yeah, the first dry flower came 2019, and since then, actually, the market grew rapidly, because 2019 it was like 30 kilos of dried flower sold in Polish pharmacies, and last year we finished with more than 3 tons, with 300,000 prescriptions. So the market is like really huge. Not to mention, of course, like recreational users. The data says 80% of patients at the pharmacy are recreational users, but it's not legal to use it like in a recreational way. But I believe that we are not ready yet, actually. Mm-hmm. What's more, 2022, there was a law that permit for national cultivation, but we're still waiting for the Polish dry flower, maybe next year, I don't know. The biggest issue for me at the moment is kind of sluggishness of authorities to permit. Actually, they're blocking permits for import, so the patient have a big issue to continue therapy with the strain they choose. And on the other hand, the market is growing so fast, so let's see what happened. Next step, maybe.
So what do you think, what's the motivation behind the blockage? Is this political, or is it lack of knowledge, or?
Yeah, actually, lack of knowledge is one of the biggest issues because the medical university do not prepare doctors for treating. And some companies use it, creating prescription bots in Poland, which is good from the one side because the patient, even in a small village, have access to the cannabis. But from the other hand, it could take focus, from the authorities for how they use it. I don't know. Let's see. I think that our government looking closely what happened here in Germany, especially in the case of budget incomes. So we'll see.
Yes. Now, very interesting. So we have a very easy access, very, very limited access.
Not at all.
No, not at all. And Hanna is working on Ukraine, right? So you have the program. So legally, there is a way, but...
So 1 year ago, when we were at the ICBC last June 2023, that was the day when Jegliński went to the parliament and said, listen guys, you should legalize medical cannabis. A lot of companies approached me, says like, have you seen the news? What is happening? And that was the first kind of moment I realized that it actually might happen. And Ukraine is very quick. In general, as a country, we are quite quick. And the law, it was June last year, then the law was adopted by the end of the last year, and then it will come into force on 16th of August. So right now, I personally joined the whole working groups on showing how the international market works. So I facilitated the discussion of Ukrainian authorities with Portugal, with Germany, with a couple of countries who who already legalized. So as of now, Ukraine chose model of cultivation. So we are gonna cultivate, and believe me when I'm saying we will, there are a lot of inquiries already from the companies who want to cultivate within the country, mainly from local guys. Obviously, Parliament wanted to attract investment and thought that probably international would come. It's not yet happening, but might. But still, Ukraine gonna cultivate, and we are also gonna import the product, mainly from Germany, Portugal, Poland, whatsoever. And the local patients, which was the most important, will consume cannabis. I anticipate the first product appear on the market, optimistically end of this year, realistically Q1 next year. And yes, so basically right now the law, the regulatory work is being done, but I'm positively sure the whole process will finish by 16th of August, because that's what is happening right now, and I know that most of the documents are ready already. So yeah, obviously we will have a prescription. It would be not that open market. We had similar discussion as friends have regarding what type of the products allowed. Should the flower be allowed or it should not be? So we were looking at the examples of different countries. Regulator is still skeptical about the whole idea, once again, because society is not prepared. People do not know the difference between THC and CBD, and this is the main problem. But yeah, regulators being quite liberal when it comes to this, but at the same time conservative regarding some of the aspects they want to do. Mm-hmm. So that's the situation.
No, it's a very interesting situation. So excuse the noises because it started raining outside, I guess. So everybody's moving in. Nothing we can do about it.
I guess people can join
join the discussion in English. We'll probably get more freebies from the other booths. So, but it's very interesting. So, your government is driving something that the basic population doesn't really want, or they don't know that they want it, right? Because they're not educated enough.
Yeah. So, for instance, what compare Ukraine with the rest of the world, right? So, for instance, in Poland, the whole culture of CBD exists since 2016, and it makes a lot of difference because There were companies who were trying to promote CBD. They were constantly doing this. They were constantly educating the market, and that's not the case in Ukraine. So in Ukraine, the first CBD product appeared on the market like last year, also because of regulation. And because of this, people are not ready. However, obviously the factor of the war speed up the whole process, because military people do consume cannabis, and if you kind of check social media of some militaries, they sometimes put on their Instagram stories 420 something. So basically the culture of consumption within the military exists, but like from the black market, and that's, I guess, was the something that speed up the whole movement. A lot of people are saying that like Ukraine did it because of PTSR, which actually is not the case. I would rather say, my personal opinion is that Ukrainian military people need cannabis more when they lose legs, arms. We have a lot of people. We have like, I think 600,000 people without limbs, without either hand or legs. So, and when they were deprived of those, it was a huge pain, and basically cannabis can be used for pain relief. So I would suggest that when it comes to the people itself, like the military, that is not a PTSR, but rather like pain relief aspects in different various scenarios would be this main driver of the whole market development.
Good. So Pepe, I know Spain, not much as of now. You're working on it, right? So what, if you look at like what we have here and what you know all the international markets. So what do you think, if you could build a system in Spain, how would it look like for your country?
Well, I mean, there's not much happening in Spain, but it might happen in the near future. The fact is that we don't really know, because it will depend on what the government think they're going to have more voters in the short, mid, or long term. No? And that's what happened, because 2 years ago we had Congress urging the government to regulate with a fair consensus. The government, they put it on hold. They had elections. You know how this works, no? And all of a sudden this year, in the plans for the Spanish regulator, which is the Spanish Agency of Drugs, they included medical cannabis. And a couple of months ago, the government released the first stage of a royal decree to actually regulate medical cannabis. The truth is, we're not as structured as in Ukraine or probably in Poland or France, so this process can take 2 months or 5 years. So if the minister decides that it's going to be good for us to have medical cannabis in place in 2 months, they will accelerate, and we might have, by August, a royal decree approved. You have the royal decree approved. You can access to medical cannabis in these conditions for, pain management as a coadjuvant, prescribed by physicians, and it's going to be, be able to purchase in pharmacies or in hospitals. They're going to make all these conditions, and then there is no budget to actually apply that regulation. No? So we will need a budget approved for the next year, which is what we are hoping. So my biggest hope is that by the first quarter of next year, we'll actually have a regulation in place. Even if we have it this year, it will be hard to get this access. No? This in terms of access to medical cannabis. Where is the Spanish government looking at? It's looking at Germany, it's looking at Portugal. We actually shortlisted lots of people even from Finland a couple of years ago to appear before Congress, and they're looking at what's going on. No? And the other part is the growing regulation. No? The growing regulation in Spain is the same as it was in 1967. So the truth is that even the regulator doesn't know what to control. They didn't really know what to ask for. No? So they're learning as the industry is learning, and they are developing as the industry is developing. No? So what we actually need, and this is a call for the industry, we need an effort from the industry to educate our regulator, to educate our policymakers, and to work with our scientific societies and patient associations so that we can all advocate and achieve a model that applies to the Spanish sector, no? the Spanish population.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously true for probably every market, right? If your 50 years of prohibition does something to an industry and to the knowledge of the masses. So for France, so the experiment is now over?
Yes, it is over. Of course, for all the political reasons, we had some delays. And so we expect to have the medical cannabis status as products by beginning of next year. So yeah, technically speaking, the experiment is over. They're pushing a little bit, mainly to maintain the patients that were included, because really the idea is that to keep giving to the patients. It's a small number. It's less than 2,000 patients currently included, but we cannot, from the deontologic perspective, leave patients without products. And so by beginning of next year, hopefully, if the political people take their decisions, we will have a clear status. And then the markets will be officially open.
Yes, do you, because you're really close, obviously, but what do you think the market will look like? Who do you be more, because we have different models already and ideas, obviously, on the stage.
Of course. So, as I said earlier, the experiment has defined 5 indications of using the cannabis. Obviously, there are many other indications, but there will be 5. And so we know, and this is, indications that are defined will give you a number of patients that are eligible. So we are talking about a market of roughly 500,000 patients yearly. Not all of them obviously will be acceding to medical cannabis, but 500,000 patients within these 5 indications. So it gives you an idea of this market. So cannot really throw figures in euros because it will depend on the prices and reimbursement. But obviously 500,000 patients, it will look like.
Yes, and now you have a new challenge because you have an election coming up. Next government will probably be a little more, I'd say, conservative as a label.
Well, it's more than conservative. It's an extreme party, so let's put the right words. For so many topics, they have shown their extremist view of what is living in society. But surprisingly, on cannabis, what is sad is that it might be not becoming a problem, let's call it this way, for the 3 years of work that has been done already. Pending, of course, to remain in the same framework, like it's a medicine, 5 indications prescribed, given by a pharmacy. So hopefully it's going to be the case. And then, of course, if this is the left party winning, which we all hope, it's logically will become a reality, like the medical cannabis.
Yeah, because at least in Germany, the far right, they're really critical about cannabis, like as a whole. You know, so it's interesting that there might be different perspectives.
Yeah, we have been discussing that. I mean, it's very recent for us, you know, like this entire situation. And this week we have been discussing with our authorities, and they were not as concerned. It's like half-half situation. So it could be like the complete, you know, no-no. But we feel that the health authorities are strong enough with all the patients, the work that has been done, the doctors, to hold their ground. So hopefully it will be positive, hopefully.
My hopes are with you, and all of our hopes are with you. So what is the next step for Poland then?
Actually, while I'm listening to you, we are not in the bad situation, actually.
I guess not, you know.
Not at all.
Maybe it's not so convenient for a patient as here in Germany.
Just recently, okay? So,
yeah, just recently. But actually in Poland, prescription for medical cannabis can be issued by any doctor without prior certification, and there's no certain indications. So anything you want and you think that as a doctor that it could help the patients, you can prescribe it. But the biggest problem is reimbursement, actually. Cannabis in Poland is non-reimbursement, so it's quite expensive because 1 gram costs around 15 euros. So it's excluding patients, the most vulnerable patients actually, that they need the therapy. And I believe that it's supposed to be next step, reimbursement. And I'm not quite sure if we are ready for legalization, of course, because the politics situation as well. But as I mentioned, we'll be watching closely what's happening here in Germany, and maybe budget income will be the proof for our government.
Okay, let's just put the ball back into Pepe's court, and then we finish with Hanna because we're running out of time a little bit. So Pepe, we already talked about obviously the next elections, and we see what's happening. So what's your outlook? I mean, what do you provision the market will be, the future will be for medicinal cannabis?
So, well, I can predict that in the short term, there will be lots of noise around cannabis in Spain. There's a confrontation between the Minister of Health, who is a progressive left-wing party leader, and the president of the region of Madrid. She started this crusade against CBD and cannabis in general. So this will make it to the media, this will make it to the debates and so on. Hopefully the end message will be medical cannabis is necessary. There's patients that they need this help, and it will accelerate the process for this royal decree. No? So this is what I hope it will happen. Again, we need some push to make sure that it reaches the level we want to be.
Okay, and Hanna, I know a lot of things are going on in Ukraine, so you already talked about, but medicinal cannabis-wise, like in August is coming soon. And then, what are the next steps?
Benjamin, you should have prepared a bit better and to have an advanced question to the panelists, right? So, what happens next? 16th of August, the law comes into force.
I mean, you're a consultant. I guess you have a vision of what you think would be best, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I'm sharing right now.
Thank you.
So the law comes into force on 16th of August. Then there is a process of product registration in Ukraine. So basically there are companies who already like to register the product, and in Ukraine it's shorter than in Poland. So I anticipate the first product to appear on the market by the end of the year. However, as I said, there might be some delays of unclarity how to do in the second, beginning of the next year. However, as you may understand, in our case, in case of Ukraine, infrastructure is not prepared. Doctors do not know how to prescribe. Patients do not yet understand that they can get in the future prescription. There are no clinics exist, nothing. People are not educated. So basically, we are working very hard. I cooperate with Ukrainian Association of Medical Cannabis. We are teaching doctors, so we are gonna release the first course on medical cannabis in September. We are working very hard on developing the market from different perspectives. We do consult businesses who want to enter the market. So there are obviously a lot of already parties who want to cultivate, which is the first thing that the people start thinking about cannabis. But yeah, I mean, what I believe is good for the whole market is that since the industry already attracts quite a lot of attention from the businesses, it would be quickly developing because businesses would do a lot of efforts on making sure there is a market. And because of this, I look very positively on the whole future that's gonna be in the nearest months.
Beautiful. So thank you for this. I want to open the floor for questions, if there are any questions, because they're very interesting because they're like 4 different countries, 4 different also approaches of how to direct policy, top down, bottom up. So, questions? Any questions? I will walk up to you. Let me just get my exercise in. No, I'm just joking, okay. Hi, you have a question?
So, there was the European election. So, since the far right in France dominated, what do you think they're going to do, moving forward throughout Europe?
So, this is a question towards France, or just like general to everybody? So everybody can respond, basically. So, with that shift to the right in Europe, which we've seen, unfortunately, what do you think will happen to Europe then? If you look at it, anyone, jump in.
Unfortunately, I'll have to answer this,
yes,
which is a nightmare. Frankly speaking, we don't know what is going to happen, straightforward, because this is unprecedented on so many ways. To be very honest, I think cannabis will be the least of their business. I'll speak for France, I don't know for other countries. We were expecting texts to be released now, so that we are ready by January. In the pharma world, this is very short. In other businesses, 6 months is nothing. For us, it's normal. We can wait for 2 years, 3 years. So we were at the end of the process, and this happened. So we expect delays, that's for sure. So in the worst case scenario, if they take over, after a huge turmoil, because the country will be in a very emotional state, we might come back to reason by the end of the year, so we will have also another delays. Nevertheless, the work that has been done for France is, and I believe, and I stated here, will lead the way to other countries in Europe, because we are giving a clear framework for a medical product that is reassuring the authorities, the doctors, the patients. So we might take a little bit of time. Maybe it will speed up the situation in Spain or in other countries. But for sure, to answer your question, we only hope for the best, but we don't know.
I'd like to point out that, in Spain we don't have the same issue because we had elections last year and we might have election again, but hopefully not. In this particular context, it's especially important to clearly separate medical cannabis from recreational use.
Yes, thank you.
Because in terms of conservative politicians, they looked at recreational use as something very dangerous to population. And when things are mixed together, they tend to see medical cannabis is just the first steps towards that. No? If we achieve to feed the media, to feed the politicians and policymakers, to work with the scientific societies, with scientific evidence, with the benefits for the patients, with successful models that have already been implemented in other markets, that's how we're going to be able to accelerate things in France and Spain and the markets that we still need to develop.
So if you look up from Ukraine outside into Europe now, so what do you think has happened?
So first of all, I'm extremely grateful to Germany who did this kind of step, even so. Who expect that from Germans? Like, Germans are very strict when it comes to the rules. Who expect they would be the first one who actually break them? So I think that Germany showed very good example, and like with the reputation of Germany as a country, with the strict control as a country established, I think this is an amazingly positive step. I slightly disagree with Pepe about the fact that medical and recreational should be separated. Yes, obviously it's very easy to communicate first as a lobbyist about the fact that it's purely medical and that kind of stuff, but we all understand that that's not the case, unfortunately. Yes, some people need it more, but once you open the market, yes, there would be a percentage of the people from recreational market who would come to medical. Poland is an amazing example out of this. So I just wish people look at Germany as a good example of it's not that dangerous, it can be regulated, people are consuming anyway, it's just like a rule that people consume cannabis from the black market, so why not to use that as attracting taxes to the country, as regulating the industry, as not allowing any bribery on this. So I think what Europe just needs to do is follow German example, very simple.
If it was that easy.
Sorry, just to add
respond,
something.
please, yes.
Just to add a slight disagreement, I really, if what we did in France will happen, we will not have fake prescriptions. We don't believe that medical cannabis should be open for everyone. Is it a drug? As other drugs, and if the industry of cannabis would like to benefit from the pricing reimbursement of the public fund, it has to follow the rules, period.
Okay. Actually, I would agree with my friend here and with Spanish point of view, because looking closely, to the political situation actually in Europe and in Poland itself, I think that we need to take the point really seriously, and it's the topic that could be controversial, so don't make it controversial more actually. So
yes,
my point of view.
So I think it's interesting because at the end, as you said, there will be recreational usage. There will always be a way. First of all, I want to say we are where we are in Germany because of a great German Cannabis Industry Association who does very good policy work, first of all, right? I guess so, yes, thank you. But apart from that, I think it's very interesting because the main difference is probably if you pay personally for your medicinal cannabis, I think it should be okay. But if you're in a public healthcare system where everybody has to pay for your recreational consumption, then it becomes a problem, right? And it's very hard. It's very hard to
exactly because people really need to
communicate
understand that we have defined budget for reimbursement. So if there are fake, let's say, sorry for the word, like fake prescriptions, that will be in detriment of other essential drugs. So, and we'll really finish this one if one day, and this will be like the wish, we would like to have like recreational cannabis. I would vouch for having this cannabis within pharmacies because the entire chain is ready. Voila.
Yes, I have a different opinion, but I will finish that panel nevertheless. I want to thank you all. It was a great discussion, and I want to thank everybody. So now what do you think about that panel? That was the best so far, I guess, so I thank you.